Joe Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Good afternoon, I'm Paul Hawkins. Our top story at 2. Some doctors have told the Prime Minister that 90% of people in intensive care have not received their COVID booster. Speaking at a vaccination centre, Boris Johnson said 2.4 million double jab people hadn't had their booster. He's urging them to get the jab so they can enjoy the new year.
I'm sorry to say this, but the overwhelming majority of people who are currently ending up in intensive care in our hospitals are people who are not boosted. If you're not vaccinated, you're 8 times more likely to get into hospital altogether. So it's a great thing to do. It's very, very important. Get boosted for yourself and enjoy New Year sensibly and cautiously.
Meanwhile, the Scottish Parliament has been recalled for a COVID update as case numbers there reach record highs. Right now, MSPs are being briefed virtually on the figures following restrictions which came in last week, including closing nightclubs and reintroducing 1 metre social distancing. You can watch the First Minister's briefing live right now on the GB News Facebook page. Some pharmacies are reporting a huge problem with shortages of lateral flow tests, saying there were requests every 5 minutes over Christmas. The Association of Independent Multiple Pharmacies is warning of patchy supplies following a change in self-isolation rules from 10 to 7 days if someone tests negative. The UK Health Security Agency say the delivery capacity for testing kits has doubled to 900,000 a day since mid-December. Insulate Britain's protests cost the taxpayer at least £4.3 million. The group blocked motorways for 3 months, calling on the government to cut carbon emissions by insulating homes. The Metropolitan Police spent the bulk of the money with over 6,600 officers and staff dealing with the campaigners. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said he was appalled by the bill. The social care system is not fit for purpose and is handing some children over to criminal gangs. That's according to a new report. The Commission on Young Lives says many teenagers are moved away from where they live and sometimes end up in areas with high levels of crime. The Department for Education says it is urgently reforming the system to address growing pressures. More than 100 cases of harassment and stalking have been reported in Parliament since the start of last year. The Met's Parliamentary Liaison and Investigation Team have recorded 117 cases between January last year and September this year. The department was established following the murder of MP Jo Cox in 2016. The Met Police say they'll treat such allegations seriously and seek to bring offenders to justice. Flights to and from UK airports are down 71% since the start of the pandemic. Aviation analytics firm Cirium say there were around 400,000 international trips this year, compared with 1.3 million in 2019. They claim recovery has been slow due to testing and quarantine requirements, plus fears of countries being added to the red list. You're up to date with the latest news. We'll have more for you at 3.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there. Mild and breezy through today and in fact into the new year with rain at times. Now, low pressure in charge through this afternoon. You can see a real squeeze on the isobars, successive areas of cloud and rain pushing from the southwest towards the northeast. And what happens in between, you will see some sunshine. So despite the fact for many of us it was a wet start to the day, the rain is now moving ever northwards, lingering across central and northern areas of Scotland with a strong wind. Cloud breaks across England and Wales and Northern Ireland as we head through the afternoon, but still quite a brisk breeze. And you can see more rain waiting in the wings later. But temperatures will be on the mild side, coming in around 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. Now, through Wednesday evening and overnight, that rain clears the far north of Scotland. More rain arrives towards the southwest. In between, some clearer skies, temperatures across the northeast of Scotland as low as 4 or 5 Celsius. Elsewhere, another mild end to the night. And again, you will see more rain as you step out on a Thursday morning. So, Thursday morning, wet and windy for many. Now, the rain could be heavy in places through the morning into the afternoon for Wales, Northern England, East Anglia, and again, some heavy bursts for the northeast of Scotland. But across the north of the country, it will clear through the day. Some brighter skies, still quite breezy, but more rain continues, particularly across Wales and the West Country with that keen wind. Temperatures again will be on the mild side, 11 to 12, 13, 14 degrees Celsius, brighter towards the northeast. So that's the pictures we head through Thursday. Through Thursday evening and overnight, that rain continues its passage northwards. And again, murky skies further south, a bit damp, clearer skies across the far north, but temperatures holding up with that breeze, and that extends into New Year's Eve. And in fact, for New Year's Day as well, with some sunshine coming through. Bye-bye.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello, I'm Neil Oliver, and over the last 6 months, I've been fortunate to meet some fantastic people from all across the British Isles. Today, I'm looking back at some of my own personal favourites that help define the term Best of British. Now, regulars of this show will know that I love my history, and back in November, I met Professor Dan Parsons from Hull University. He's one of the researchers looking for remains of a town called Ravensor that disappeared off the coast of Yorkshire all of 650 years ago. It was known as one of the main towns at the mouth of the Humber estuary before it was eroded and taken away for good in 1362. Now, scientists and historians reckon they found traces of it much closer to the shore than expected. It's being called Yorkshire's very own Atlantis.
So Ravensor was a town, quite a successful town for a number of years, but it was right at the mouth of the Humber estuary, which is quite a precarious position to have a town, and I'll explain why in a moment. But the town slowly over time essentially succumbed to the waves, and there was a very, very big storm in 1362. A big storm surge and tidal and a tidal driven flood, pretty much all the way around the North Sea. And some people think that killed up to 250,000 people. It was at least 25,000, potentially up to 250,000, all around the North Sea. And it put paid to Ravensor as part of that event. So you're talking a very serious storm surge event through the North Sea, and that was the end of the town. And our surveys have been searching for its location.
One of the details that absolutely caught my imagination when I was reading about this was that the storm has gone down in history as, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, Grota Mandrenke, the great drowning of men, which is it's biblical. It's biblical, and as you say, I've been on that headland and not known about Ravensor, and I know from experience it's an exposed location, to say the least. And as you say, why would they inhabit such a precarious spot?
So you're absolutely right. So Spurn Point, the end of the kind of spit that extends down from the north side of the Humber Estuary. It's there because the coast to the north is eroding away, and the sediments kind of get washed down the coast and build out this spit, but it covers pretty much half the Humber Estuary's mouth. Now, what happens over time is that as the coast to the north erodes westward, the spit becomes exposed and then gets cut off and then gets reformed again further to the west. So it's stable for a period of time and then fails and then builds out again. In terms of why build there, it's a perfect location for any tracking trade routes along the North Sea coast. So in terms of being strategically positioned right on the edge of the estuary, I mean, it's kind of modern logistics. It's perfect. It's a perfect location for trading goods, for taking things inland along the Humber Estuary, but also taking things northwards and southwards from that point. So it's a logical place to have a trading post, and that town built up over time, but then time caught up with it, and the waves caught up with it too, and then eventually, yes, washed into the ocean from that major storm event.
How long have people like yourself been looking for the town?
Yes, so we've been searching for.
We're looking at I think we're looking at sonar images there.
That's right. So the image you just seen before is actually sonar images from the Bay of Naples. So using similar sorts of equipment that we've been using in our search. And basically, this equipment it scans the seafloor in 3 dimensions to centimetric resolution. It's similar to the sorts of technology that was used to find the Titanic, for example. And what we can do is we can map the seafloor, not just in depths in sparsely kind of distributed depths, but a 3-dimensional scan, a complete view of the bottom. We use sonar technology to do that. So we've been searching in and around the location, but actually it was Phil Matheson and some colleagues from local historian societies at Withinsea, and also some discussions that they'd had with local fishermen that said at very low tides we're seeing some surface disturbances, and so if you imagine you've got shallow flow over some foundations, for example, you see the effect of that on the surface, a bit like water going over a river wheel.
So some of the remains are only just submerged.
Yeah, so you could be in like 4 or 5 meters of water, but there's a tidal current, and you can see the turbulence kind of tripping over something on the bottom of the seabed.
I don't know. It's a reminder, isn't it, and a warning that our islands are dynamic, and that they're changing and being changed all the time. You look back 650 years, and people were coping with these kinds of changes and events.
Exactly, precisely before our current discussions about climate change. We have a tendency to think of ourselves as to not really think beyond the end of our own noses and the end of our own period. So many of these huge changes take place. I mean, I suppose the thing that we've got brilliant at the past 150 years is protecting ourselves precisely from these kinds of things. Our favourite factoid at the moment being that over the past 100 years, the deaths from events like this have dropped by like 98%, precisely because we're so much more protected. But what an amazing story insofar as I feel like why things like this or Pompeii grab the imagination so much is because it was so at a stroke, so that even if it's, somewhat preserved there is a sort of snapshot of how things were rather than something developing and morphing and changing over time. Such an amazing story.
I think, Emma, that there's something, biblical, elemental. I think the idea of the land being taken by the sea is a spectre that has haunted the species, obviously, for thousands of years. I mean, the flood myths are universal.
Absolutely.
And there it is in happening in real time.
And you described it as romantic, and it is so romantic. Even the name Ravens Are Odd has this sort of darkness to it. And it's particularly the discovery of it in the current times that we're in, the context of that, because I think there is something sort of within us that is haunted by that fear of the sea.
A wonderful story, and I wish Dan and his team well in their ventures. I'm going to take you back to September now, and this little gem from our North West of England reporter, Bradley Harris. The pandemic has affected businesses in many ways, but one firm in Greater Manchester has seen a sales increase despite lockdown. Lancashire Eccles Cake has been in the pastry business for over 40 years, selling its product all over the world. And as Brad found out, the factory has a history as rich as the pastry itself.
It's small, it's round, and it's made from flaky pastry with butter and currants.
You can put down the berry black pudding and forget about the Manchester tart, because I think the Eccles cake is a British institution, warming hearts and stomachs since the 17th century. Do you like them?
Yeah, they're nice.
What's your favourite bit about it? The currants. First thoughts?
Perfect.
Let me get your thoughts on this. So,
I love them.
you love these?
Oh, absolutely gorgeous.
Tell me what you love about them.
They're just dead. They melt in your mouth. I love all the currants and everything.
I just heard you say that your husband lives off these.
Oh, you couldn't go anywhere where you've got to get Eccles cakes.
Life for an Eccles cake began right here in the northwest of England, in this town called Eccles, and they began selling quite literally like hotcakes. Today, the cake is famous around the world, but in 1796, in roughly this spot, James Birch was credited as the first person to sell the cakes commercially.
The corner of what's now Church Street in Eccles was the shop where the cakes were sold, and by the early 19th century, they were exported all over the world to places in America and even the West Indies. 200 years later, and the factory which makes the most of them is celebrating an 18-month boom in sales during a time when many businesses shut up shop. Owned by the Edmonds family, they've been making pastry since the 1930s.
Behind me, there are probably thousands upon thousands of Eccles cakes shooting out on these conveyor belts, ready to be packaged and sent around the world. So who better to chat to than Paul Wood? You are the National Sales Manager. Just tell me, what is actually going on in this room?
The actual production of the Eccles cakes, of which you can see is a phenomenal event that is undertaken by lots and lots of individuals. It's very much a handcrafted operation, and we do turn out around about 1 million, well, in excess of 1 million cakes a week.
Talk to me about that recipe. What can you divulge?
Very secret. You'd need to shoot me if I divulge anything, to be honest. It's locked in a safe safely upstairs.
But it's not changed, has it, for years and years and years?
Absolutely not, no. It's not changed, and that's the reason for our success, without a shadow of a doubt. It gives us our unique selling proposition is the recipe and the fact that we don't compromise on quality ingredients. So the raisins only come from certain specific areas, and it's real butter that goes into the pastry.
The history of this building is almost as rich as the pastries themselves. This place goes back years, doesn't it?
Oh, it goes back to 1979 when the old Mr. Ken Edmonds started the bakery in 1979. He had a family bakery, the Edmonds Bakery, just farther up the road, producing both Eccles cakes and Chorley cakes. But once he started this in 79, it's obviously evolved from 1979, but the history behind it goes back obviously to the 1930s, which is considerable.
The company employ between 60 to 70 people, and most of them live in the local area. Ian Edmonds is the production director and took me on a little tour of the factory.
So this is where they're packaged. We've seen how they are folded and put together by hand, but this is actually the place where we're going now, where they're packaged and sent off around the world, not just in the northwest.
No, not just the northwest, all across Britain, but also many parts of the world. We supply New England, California, Walmart in Canada, Spain. We just sent a shipment just this week all the way to Australia, New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates. They really are a global phenomenon.
And the boxes are literally coming through, being sellotape packaged and onto wooden crates. Do you get messages from people from around the world saying, oh, it brings back memories?
Yeah,
the Eccles cake?
I get lots of emails, especially from older generations who have tasted them while they've been over in Canada, and says it really reminds them of the taste of the youth.
The pandemic has not stopped these conveyor belts moving. You've carried on and you keep, in fact, you're selling more than ever.
Yeah, I think what's happened was when the pandemic first started, everyone was hoarding the toilet paper, the tins of tomatoes, and I think people who've never had an Eccles cake before, they saw the packet, they thought, wow, it's got a really good shelf life, it's quite small, I can hide that in the cupboard and have it if I need it.
Well, do you know, I have had many in my time, but one thing I haven't done is have them warm, and it's just caught my eye. We've got some trays over here, loads of freshly baked Eccles cakes. Do you mind if I just help myself and put my hand in?
No.
I'll just take the one. Yourself. Here we go, and I'm going to just have a little bite. Let's see how it tastes. You said some people, when they taste it, it brings back memories. It really does. I mean, just take a look at that. That filling, just fantastic. And that was baked, what I said, in the last half an hour or so.
2 hours ago.
2 hours. You couldn't get fresher than that. Oh, wow, incredible work that goes on in there. Absolutely crazy that in excess of 1 million Eccles cakes gets produced on those conveyor belts inside that warehouse every single week. Amazing work. But I'm going to talk about that warehouse actually. It's in tip-top condition. So who better? Here he comes, Ian Howells, the warehouse manager. Ian, do you mind if I have a quick chat with you? Just as I know you're still working, but just brilliant. Because you do some amazing work, Ian, don't you? Like, you are in charge of the warehouse that I've just been in.
Yes.
And there's a lot going on. How long have you actually been working here at Lancashire Eccles Cakes?
I've been here 30 years, but don't be telling anybody that.
30 years?
30 years I've been here.
So what's kept you here then? What's the passion? What has kind of really kept you here for 30 years?
It's a good place to work for. It's a family-run business. They're very, very close, very intimate. They look after the staff.
Amazing. Now, just tell me, day to day,
yes,
what do you get up to? Because it's not just driving forklifts around there, although I'm sure you love that.
Oh, no. I've got to take all the orders in, give all the orders out, prepare the orders, book the orders, get them transported out. It's non-stop, booking and taking deliveries.
But we saw a lorry load of ingredients turn up. Now, those are vital. Do you find that the shortage of lorry drivers has really had an impact on the deliveries?
We've had a lot of impact with delivering our product. Getting the goods in, not too bad. We've shortage a bit on the cardboard. We have to give them more notice to get the cardboard in. And a few missed deliveries going into depots. So I've had to rebook a lot of the deliveries back in.
But that hasn't stopped people from enjoing their Eccles cakes.
We're getting them in there. I had actually one missed delivery yesterday. I've had to rebook him for Thursday, to be honest.
Well, look, really good to chat with you, and I'll let you crack on because I know you're a really busy guy, but absolute pleasure.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks a lot. Oh, just incredible, isn't it? This is the work. It's not just about folding those Eccles cakes into shape. It's also about the warehouse and how you manage it too. Those deliveries, equally as important as the cakes themselves.
Lots more to come on Best of British. After the break, I'll look back on one of my many canine visitors to the studio.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage. I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the political correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the political correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Best of British. Every week we try and make space in the show for someone whose efforts make the world a better place. We call those guests Great Britons. In September, I was joined by Michelle Clark, who dedicates her time and care to dogs living on the streets with their homeless owners. Since 2017, Michelle has helped hundreds of dogs, fostering and finding new homes for those that need them. Her charity, funded entirely by donations and dependent on the kind hearts of volunteers, is called Dogs on the Streets, DOTS for short, and it helps dogs like Silver, who joined me and Michelle on the sofa.
So this is Silver. Silver actually came into our foster care 3 days ago. So we have a 4-acre sanctuary, so we can take dogs that belong to complex situations, from homelessness to domestic violence, mental health, addiction. So Silver's owner became homeless, and obviously they couldn't get into temporary accommodation immediately. So the service provider who's supporting the client contacted us. Otherwise, they would have ended up on the streets. So we tried to prevent that from happening by saying, well, look, we'll take the dog in, then we'll support you through the channels to make sure that you can get suitable accommodation, because there is a duty of care to the dog through services and housing as well.
It must be tough. I know that I can say that a couple of weeks ago you were going to be our guest.
Yeah.
But at the last minute you had to drop out because you had to go and deal with and you don't need to go into the details, but a sensitive emergency situation. Is that quite a commonplace for you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, no 2 days are the same. So we're a 24/7 service. I'm actually volunteer for my own charity. And like I say, you know, I could leave here and get a call and end up on the other side of London, the other side of the country. We cover the whole of the UK. So we have dogs coming in from from all areas. And it could be a simple thing, you know, where somebody has been admitted into hospital, but they're refusing to stay to get the help unless they know that their dog is looked after. So we will go and literally immediately go and take that dog. Domestic violence, sadly, is on the increase. And, you know, when people flee domestic violence, leaving a dog there is 75% chance of that dog becoming the victim in that situation. So again, we ensure that we get the dog out as well. And obviously, very sadly, due to the last 18 months, there's been a mental strain on many, a lot of mental health and a lot of like people being admitted for mental health. And again, their dogs, so we look after their dogs. And it just gives a peace of mind to these people knowing that they can get help while their dog is being safely looked after.
So will Silver in due course be going back to her?
Yes, that is our ultimate goal, is to make sure we can get owner and dog back together, and we represent and support them through the services, housing, mental health, addiction, anything that's going to enable them both to move forward and have a happier and healthier life. We will support that all the way.
It's to bring you both in. When we talk to the people we call Great Britons, and you are surely one, I find it's just a sudden opening of a window into another part of life that I just overlook. You know, and that idea, it's to know that there are people like you out there, because I walk past people on the street all the time, God forgive me, and people with dogs, and then I haven't until this moment really thought about the real practicalities about being responsible for another living creature when you're on the street.
Yeah, well, a lot of these people are on the street because of the dog, because they don't want to give their dog up. And unfortunately, a high percentage is male men with dogs. They've come out of, breakdown of relationships, marriage. They've got a dog. They can't get anywhere with the dog. They can't sofa surf with a dog. So their only alternative is to go out on the street. So in effect, it's the dog that, unfortunately, is putting them out on the street.
Now, you've got, I believe you're in the process of building and raising the funds for a facility, I don't know how best to describe it, for a foster home for the dogs.
Well, we've got a sanctuary that we've just recently acquired, and it needs a lot of work doing on it. And obviously, because of our intake, and we're more busier now, especially sort of coming out of the COVID situation, we need to make more outside areas for these dogs to have their outside routines. So we've got 2 big areas that we're having. It's like real deep overgrowth of like everything in there. And then we want to get, about 10 to 12 kennel enrichment runs of all different activities, so that obviously we don't have to say no to having to bring a dog in. And that is my biggest fear. But obviously we need space, and to do that, that's why we're fundraising.
How much of a financial commitment is it? I mean, how much money do you realistically need to do the things? I know you're a small charity.
Yeah.
It's all donation. It's all voluntary.
Yeah.
What kind of level of financial help do you need to get through the week?
Well, at this moment in time, I mean, it literally costs us probably, our overheads is over 20,000 a month, and that's for basics. I mean, our veterinary bills last year were £94,000, and because of the COVID, pandemic, and I totally understand how people's financial commitments are going to change, we have struggled so badly. We've had no support through government. We've had nothing. All we've had, thank God, to our lovely supporters that have even just that £1 makes a big difference to us. So, yeah, I mean, we are at the point now where we are pleading for donations to help us keep going, because we are a service that provides everything. We're sort of one of a kind in the country to be able to do that, and we don't stick to certain areas. Anyone that rings up needs help, we'll do what we can.
Well, Michelle, hopefully more people on account of you being here tonight will know of your existence and the work of Dots. It's been lovely. Look how well behaved Silver is. Look, 2 minutes in the room and Silver is showing off.
Must be a calming effect from you.
I very much doubt it. It's absolutely inspiring stuff that Michelle and her team continue to do, and it's needed right now more perhaps than ever. I urge anyone interested in helping her not-for-profit charity to look them up online and get in touch. Coming up, you'll see how my production team made me look a proper Charlie when they mocked me up as the next James Bond.
You're
watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back to Neil Oliver, Best of British. Occasionally, we've had to deal with some sad news on my show. Back in August, I spoke to a young man called Liam Summers. He was absolutely gutted that the annual festival Up Helliar, a celebration of the Shetland Islands' Viking heritage, had been cancelled for a second year in a row. Traditionally, squads of Viking warriors parade through the streets of the Shetland capital of Lerwick, and the whole affair comes to a climax with the ceremonial burning of a Viking longship built specially for the occasion. I've had the good fortune of witnessing Up Helliar twice, and as you'll see from the interview, it's an amazing sight involving some very interesting characters.
I think for the majority of people, it's one of the biggest events of the year, but it's not just about the day. It's something that, for a lot of people, you spend the whole year preparing for. And especially in the winter, there's a lot more people involved, and it probably passes along that winter, getting together and making suits and planning your act or your dance or socialising and catching up. And it'll leave a big hole in the community again this winter.
And the whole ethos of it really, I'm sure, is because it's happening at the darkest time of the year, when what the place is crying out for is fire and light and celebration right there in the depths of winter. And Shetland does winter like few other places do, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just something everybody looks forward to. Passes the winter, brings a lot of visitors to Shetland, brightens up the winter. It's good for the community, and especially after the pandemic, something that I think the community needs, but there's just not, it's more the time left to make the costumes and everything else. With 24 weeks to go, it's not long enough to do it justice, and to actually have that fun through the year.
How many visitors are drawn specifically for Up Helliar, given that it is, it's right in the depths of the dark winters of January in Shetland? How many incomers do you get?
I'm not sure, but I think it pretty much doubles the population of Lerwick. So I know you can't get a bed in Shetland really. Typically, but it's not really why we do it for ourselves, really, to have fun. But the fact people want to come and see it is great for Shetland, and it gives a boost at an otherwise quiet time of year to businesses. So that's a positive thing.
And so, when, in all likelihood, will Lerwick and Shetland host Up Helliar again in the traditional manner? When will it be?
I think, we're pretty confident that the restrictions would be okay. It's more to be ready. So I think given the way the restrictions are going, we're certainly confident that it'll happen in January 2023, and hopefully the squad and all involved will get a really good, enjoyable year building up to it next year.
Well, thanks a million for that. It was lovely to be reminded. I've been and seen for myself, and I still think that no television cameras can properly do justice to what Abelia is actually like. It's a three-dimensional experience in every possible way. But thanks for joining us, and I'll send my very best wishes to the Jarl who's awaiting his opportunity. Thanks for now.
I will do. Yeah.
So important, isn't it, that these community events, isn't it? It's community's all about, and after a pandemic and after all of the lockdown, these are the events that we need.
Absolutely. I mean, it just reminds you of the fullness of what public life is really like. I mean, all of the textures and layers of it. For example, these festivals, the way in which communities get brought together, things that people prepare for over a year, that's rooted in a history that goes back generations, and all of that kind of comes together for these events that really bring people together and add some real fullness and richness to a community. So I think it's things like that which really just remind us of why public life and a reinvigorated public life is so important.
I think there has been in the last few years for some of these kinds of events, and I was saying I'm a Sussex boy, and bonfire is big in Sussex and Lewis, and we dress up as Vikings or as Red Indians or as whomever you want to be, and we march around and blow up effigies of the Pope and other political people, and usually the police as well are blown up, and anyone in authority. There's a kind of libertarian streak there, home of Thomas Paine when he did his first writing. But these things bring communities together. But there has been a push, very often from, in Lewis we call them, and Sussex, DFLers, down from Londoners, the kind of, maybe some people call them the metropolitan elite or whatever, who kind of say, oh no, this is not a very pleasant thing to do. We want to be doing things that are much more kind of celebrating different multicultural. There's nothing wrong with celebrating multiculturalism, but actually also sometimes celebrating these old ancient traditions also bring communities, whatever colour, race, religion, creed the people are in the communities, they bring people together in feeling a sense of place. And a sense of place is so important in our politics, and I think sometimes we forget it.
I also think that was a very useful reminder of what I suppose you could say is the collateral damage of the lockdown measures over the last 18 months. And sometimes when we say that, it's tempting to kind of say, well, there's people who've died of COVID, but there's also been all of the people who've suffered their mental health, cancer patients and all the rest of it. But actually what's really been taken away from us is our community life, is our civil society, and without that's what makes us develop the bonds that create whatever ethnicity you are, whatever background you are, whatever class you are. That's how we all pull together. And when you see that, this is the cost, right? And it's a real human cost. People can say, oh, it's trivial, it's just a festival. But actually, no, it's the way that people understand their lives. I mean, I organise an annual festival every year called the Battle of Ideas Festival. Hasn't got Vikings, we don't have any bonfires, and we've not run it for 2 years. I know we're organising it now very last minute, and we had a kind of taster day 2 weeks ago. And the reason I'm saying that was because I was so terrified with the taster day, because I kept thinking, I don't know what to do anymore when you have panel debates, and will people come and will they be able to speak? Because we've lost a bit of confidence, and I just think it's tragic how much we've lost of that, and I want to be optimistic that we've got to grab it. I want everyone to be a Jarl now, and we've got to go out and build up these things.
The other thing that we've seen is that some events have been able to go ahead if they are organised in a certain way, and what that does do often is it stops the more organic organisation. I mean, Pride in Brighton, for example, had to cancel because we're a community Pride event, whereas if you're a big kind of corporate festival, you can still go ahead because you can afford all the upfront costs. Those kinds of things, I think, have been a real loss.
No, but I mean, Liam's testimony there was I thought Liam's testimony was so powerful. The fact that you're talking there about it takes 10 years.
I know.
The fundraising. I mean, the outfit, £2,000 for
for just for one, and they've all got
all of that. And 15 years you've got to put in your time on the board
and also it matters to people. But I just think when you were saying certain things could go ahead. I mean, we were actually given an opportunity to hold an event, and they said everyone in the audience would have to wear a mask, all the speakers would have to wear visors, and we cancelled it. And I've never cancelled anything in my life. I mean, in a straightforward way. But I just said no, because I want human contact, right? I want it to be as close to I want normal.
Another Great Britain I've met is Jamie MacDonald. Record breaker, motivational speaker, author, fundraiser and all-round superhero, which is apt because he dressed up as one when I spoke to him. For the first 9 years of his life, Jamie endured a rare spinal condition, epilepsy, a weakened immune system and problems with his legs. His family feared he would live a life confined to a wheelchair. Jamie thought differently though, and, as you'll see, has spent much of his adult life putting himself through all manner of physical challenges all around the world.
I was just thinking, I'm wearing my superhero suit in a hotel room. It's probably looking a bit weird right now.
Come on, tell the truth. You wear it all the time, don't you? You sleep in it.
I do. Absolutely.
Now, Jamie, it's a big ask, I'll tell you now, given how much you've done. But can you try and just give us a flavour of the sort of adventures that you have undertaken? Now, good luck.
Yeah, right. Well, it was probably about 8 years ago. I was saving up to put a deposit on a house, and I went to go and sign the papers. And right at the last minute, I just got this gut feeling in my stomach. I was like, something's wrong. I don't know if you ever get that gut feeling, Neil. And in the end, I just had to pull out. And then I thought, right, what do I want? And that's when I kind of started to dig deep on my childhood and spending the time in hospital. So instead of getting the house, I bought a bicycle for £50 out of the newspaper. It was one of the worst bikes ever, right? And then I cycled 14,000 miles from Bangkok, Thailand, back to Gloucester, back to the Children's Hospital.
It must have been quite a good bike, really. Must have been quite a good bike, really.
No, it got changed and yeah, all the way. It was a different bike at the end of it.
And you were no sooner back in your home than you started again. What was the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up breaking the world record for sitting on a stationary bike for 12 days non-stop. And my butt was very sore in that one. And then straight after that, I then got myself a visa for Canada just to go on holiday. And then I ended up running instead 5,000 miles across Canada. And it just kind of kept... Yeah, well, I mean, it just kind of, when you just find that mission and purpose of what you're born to do. And I guess at the end of those kind of cycling challenges, I found what I love, and that was it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I thought, right, I've never ran before, but let's just go for it. And yeah.
And it absolutely didn't stop there. That's not the only time that you've run across North America.
Yeah, no, I know. Running across Canada's pathetic, isn't it? You've got to do more than that. So straight after, I thought I'd continue the journey, and then I ended up running 5,500 miles. I know, an extra 500 miles, get in there. And then that kind of filtered on to then one of the most horrific challenges, but I've got to share it with you. I then ran on a treadmill, right, to break the world record, aka Dreadmill. Let's just get that right. For 7 days, trying to cover the most amount of miles in that time. So 524 miles. So it was 20 marathons in 7 days. Yeah. Oh, the treadmill. Oh. Do you ever go on a treadmill?
I can tell you I never have. And you're not actually giving it. Now that you've called it the Dreadmill, I feel even further from the treadmill than I had before you started. Now you've written about your adventures as well, haven't you? Tell us about your book.
I have, yeah. I've got a couple books out, but I've actually just got a new book out called Running America, and that has the Dreadmill in there as well as a little surprise. So it's doing really well on Amazon, and it's turning into a bestseller, which is fantastic. So I'm excited to share that.
I think there might be quite a lot of Americans that wish someone like you was running America.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You really won't want me running, I tell you.
I tell you, Jamie, you are these moments that I have to spend with people like yourself are just they're among the highlights of my week. Talking to you, hearing your enthusiasm, listening to you laugh, looking at those pictures of you diving into oceans at the end of cross-continental runs. You lift my spirits. So, if for no other reason, what you've done for me tonight in your few minutes, I thank you 1,000 times. And best of luck with the rest of your adventures.
Neil. I mean, I've always wanted to chat to you. I feel like you're the most Scottish person I know.
That's actually written in my passport. That is my occupation. Jamie MacDonald, another amazing, inspiring person who I've been privileged to speak to. Now, in October, fans finally got to see the long-awaited final Daniel Craig outing as James Bond. I was joined in the studio by Ray Mears and Ellie Phillips, both fans of the franchise. Now, I don't mind telling you, I'm a bit worried about James Bond. Like everyone else, I've heard the calls for change, that the next Bond should be a woman or a person of colour, or both. There's plenty of room for another character entirely, a new secret agent. But I say, leave Bond alone. And here's why.
What is it?
You don't know what this is.
Please. I just want to be a little tidier.
Well, I have to say, that looks jolly exciting, based only on that clip. Still with me, my panel, Ray Mears and Ellie Phillips. Now, Ellie, I understand you have seen the new film. Come on, does it live up to everything that was heaped and hyped around it?
Yeah, it definitely does. It is really good. I've only ever actually seen the Daniel Craig Bond films, and I personally think it's the best one.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't go back any further?
No, I tried it. Like 10 years ago, I tried watching an old James Bond film, and I just couldn't relate at all. Couldn't buy into it, didn't get it.
Was that a Pierce Brosnan Bond or a Connery Bond?
I think it was a Connery, and I just was like, what is this? Why are these women fawning over this man? I didn't get it. Like, it didn't make any sense to me at all.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Really? So the films held no attraction for you?
Not one bit.
Until Daniel
which
Craig.
is really odd, actually, because I really do like spy films. Like, I love things like The Bourne, like The Ultimatums. I love the film Taken, things like that I'm really gripped by. But they just seemed so... I mean, obviously, they're dated, they're very old when I watched them, but I just didn't have any rapport with them. But the Daniel Craig films, I thought, were really good. Like, you know, some
Why?
better.
What does Daniel Craig, or indeed the writing and everything around it, bring that, say, a Connery Bond didn't?
I think there was... I think perhaps it was just one bad one I saw a bit of, but it felt like these have more of a balance of male to female attitudes, almost, in terms of like a woman giving it back a bit more. And also, especially in this latest film, the writing is brilliant. There's a lot of very subtle humour. There are moments of light and dark, and it's not... There's no women suddenly falling at someone's foot for no reason. Like, I was like, what? No one would do that. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Ray, I think I'm probably safe in saying that we're, a different generation, different attachment to Bond.
I think so.
What do you make of the Bond epic?
Well, I haven't seen this one. I'd like to see it. I think I really enjoyed Casino Royale. I think Daniel Craig was very good in that. I haven't liked the one since, but it's a lot to do with the baddie. And I also think in Casino Royale, you had the other... Bond is always a flawed character to me. I mean, this is the guy we send to do the dirty jobs, and he's lethal, and it's his imperfection that makes him attractive. But I think what was really interesting about Casino Royale is you had a very strong female character in the film. Eva Green, I think, her character, Vesper Lind, was very well written, but the actress herself survived Bond. And I think that really takes some doing. And I think we can go back to Diana Rigg with George Lazenby. The best Bond movies for me are when you have classic Bond, but a very strong female character in the film as well. How does this one compare?
This one, there were quite a few strong female characters in this one. They're all really, really good. I wouldn't say that any stand out more than others. For me, the standout character in this, or the standout actor, was Rami Malek. He is phenomenal. Every time he comes onto the screen, you get chills. He just embodies that evil it just seeps through him, and it's very subtle. It's so well played. He's really good.
Were you at the premiere?
I actually wasn't in the country for the premiere, so I missed it. And I think it's the only time my boyfriend's been annoyed at me for, not getting into a premiere with me, to be honest. No, so we went to see it together last night, and it was so great to see. The cinema was packed out, absolute silence in the film. No one was on their phones, no one was chatting. It was just full, engrossed in what was going on, and it was amazing.
Now, I'm being told we've contacted Ladbrokes for the latest official odds on who will be the next Bond. I can tell you that Tom Hardy is the favourite. If they go for a woman, then Lashana Lynch would appear to be the first in line. Look, I'm a 500 to 1. I think that's worth £25 if anyone's money.
Give it a go. Why not?
Fantastic. These are genuine odds.
Yeah.
500 to 1. I'm getting in amongst.
I'm actually surprised that
it's an excellent price.
I'm actually surprised that any women are still on an odds list, considering that Barbara Piccoli has said that there will absolutely be no female James Bond. Oh my God! That's your new screensaver now, isn't it?
Come on, see if that's the best or the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I'll give you 50-50 on that. And what about all of that, Ray? What do you say to the idea that Bond should cease to be what he has been and move into being a female character or a person of colour or someone from another ethnic group? What would you say?
I think they should stick to the books. I think they should stick to the books. He's an imperfect character, and from a certain background, and that's it. There's plenty of room in other characters in the film to cover all the aces.
Oh look, there I am becoming. I have no idea why this is being done to me.
Oh, I love it. That's so good.
That's quite good, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Blofeld. Yeah. What about you, Ellie? Is it? You see, my contention is that Bond is Bond.
Yeah.
He's a character defined in the books, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
And that if there's to be another character, another secret agent working for MI, whatever, crack on, brilliant, no problem. Do it any way you want, but leave Bond alone.
Yeah, I think Lashana Lynch as a 00 was really good, really great addition. It didn't feel like woke watching it. It just felt like, oh, okay, yeah, there's a 00 agent. It's a woman, great, fantastic. It's like, well, obviously they're going to have female agents, like it's a given. So that was great, and she's a really strong character in it. I think moving forward, I don't think James Bond should be a woman. I think that's lazy. I think it's like tokenistic. I don't think it's necessary. Why aren't there just more, other films, other stories with strong female leads? Maybe money should be invested into those and producing those scripts, and that would be fantastic to see. I think, like you said, James Bond is what it is. I don't see it being a problem if James Bond was an actor of colour. I think that's absolutely fine. That doesn't bother me at all because I think, well, it's just the colour of someone's skin. It's not fundamentally changing a lot of the storylines in terms of relationships that were had and interwoven script. So I think for me personally, I don't think that's an issue. So someone like Regé-Jean Page, who's on the list, would be fantastic. I think he would slip really easily into that role of the kind of classic Bond who had that charm.
Yeah.
I also think someone like Tom Hardy would be great. There are so many great actors out there who I think could do it, but I do think it should be a man. I don't think it should be a woman.
Thank you for watching Neil Oliver, Best of British. Here's to another 12 months of fascinating history, inspiring stories and wonderful guests. I wish you all the very best for the festive season, and I'll see you in 2022.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather. Canary Islands. Sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News. Hi there, very good afternoon to you. I'm Colin Brazier. In the last few minutes, Nicola Sturgeon has been setting out her government's analysis of the COVID-19 situation. In Scotland, she said that the number of Scots in hospital with COVID was stable, but maintained it was still